Ben, are you
Yeah.
ready? Do we have Ben's debunk music ready?
Oh, let me see. Sorry, I didn't have it pulled
If
up.
we don't, we can unfortunately. I mean, it's a bummer, but we can skip it if need be. Let's get straight to the debunk. We have the article we're working off of,
Yeah.
right? Okay, Ben,
Yeah.
what are we talking about and debunking this week?
Yeah. What we're talking about is the intersection of workplace tyranny and what's happened because of the coronavirus, and what we're in effect debunking is the idea that that workplaces, under capitalism, either generally aren't a site of tyranny, because it's all just like employment contracts or just like, interactions between freely contracted agents like pre-modern farmers, haggling, over their goods or something. Or even particularly the idea that this is even the case for relatively better educated white collar workers, right? That which of course goes with a classic piece of capitalist propaganda, which is, to the extent that you have legitimate complaints about like the horrors of an Amazon warehouse or something, just go to college and get a better job, right?
Right.
And so, of course, last week on your show, you interviewed Amazon organizer, and I think that sort of element of this equation, we're all very aware of, which is that at workplaces like that, right, that kind of blue collar workplace, the intersection between the pandemic and workplace tyranny has been very direct and very horrifying, right? That like you literally have to choose between your livelihood and increasing the possibility of getting a lethal disease or passing it on to your loved ones. But I think it's really striking that even for the comparatively privileged workers who have the kind of job where your employer can just give you a laptop and send you home, right? That you can go work from home, which in principle you would think would lead to an increase in workplace autonomy for those workers, right? There's nobody looking over your shoulder. You're in the privacy of your own home. And really at this point, you are just kind of making this trade that, you're providing a service. As long as the job gets done, nobody's keeping track of when and how exactly it gets done. You're just exchanging getting the job done for a paycheck, right? This is exactly what, if we buy into this kind of libertarian fantasy of what an employment contract is, right? This is what we should hope that it would be. But far from that happening, all kinds of bosses who are in this situation where they've had to send the workforce home because of the pandemic, not just in the United States, but internationally, have been freaking out about the possibility that they'll lose even a little bit of their control over the 8 out of every 16 hours that people spend at work. And so they have been reacting in this really heavy-handed kind of Orwellian way by forcing people to load up their computers at home with all this spyware. There's a company, Access Financial, that which is, by the way, its CEO is one of the, I think the top couple of wealthiest CEOs in the banking industry, that, for example, that sent all of its employees an email saying that we are monitoring every single keystroke and we'll be taking a screenshot every 10 minutes to see, make sure that you're, not doing anything else on this computer, during the time, it's supposed to be working. There are reports of workplaces where bosses have been requiring people to log into a video conference at the beginning of the workday and just keep the camera on all day. So there's literally a camera pointed at them all day as they're working from home. Zoom which we are using right now to record this, had a feature. They discontinued this because there was so much outcry. But in order to enable this kind of thing where if like a boss set up a Zoom meeting for the job, even if people were logged into it, right? Well, that's not enough, right? We're talking about a literal situation where people are on camera because they're in a Zoom meeting, but that wasn't enough surveillance. So they had a feature that allowed the meeting convener to be alerted if somebody navigated away from it for 30 seconds at any time during during the workday. And you get people, these white collar workers, who reported that like they're actually like much more so than when they're at the actual physical workplace. They feel like they can't get up and stretch, right? Because they're worried that one of these spyware programs that the bosses, put on all the company computers will like register the fact that they haven't been working for a minute, it'll show that they've been inactive for too long, and then they'll get like an emergency email from the boss they'll have to respond to right away, and it's just an absurdity because even take it on its own terms, right? I mean, like how worthless do you have to be as a manager that like you actually are contributing so little of your own that you have time to like spy on people all day?
Well, maybe that's your job.
and then again, you'd think, well, hold on, is the job getting done or not, right? If it is getting done, who cares, right? Whether it's like getting done and starts over the course of the day or through sustained work, except that people, they're very, very attached to this level of power, right? And sort of seeing these workers who they have this leverage over because they can deny them their livelihood by firing them. That once you get used to having this level of power over people, then you're very loath to give it up. And if that's the case, even at these jobs, right? I mean, like that should really give you, a sense of perspective about people who, have to work at some place like an Amazon warehouse.
Absolutely. And just again, to reiterate the point, the consensus, I mean, starting with the most extreme libertarian, and again, I'll always plug Nancy McLean's Democracy in Chains. Everybody really needs to read that book. Hopefully we'll get her on the show soon. But the bigger picture, reality that neoliberals, the mainstream of Democratic Party and social democratic parties have been shrinking out the state. And this delusional belief that surveillance and control and authoritarianism only comes from the public sector, when it is even more aggressive, obviously, in the corporate and private sector, while you've hollowed out the state and democratic capacity. Well, there's a word, private authoritarianism is the world we're in. But anyways, that's the debunk. Ben, guys, are you Matt and David are protesting?
We're here.
They're communism with Julian Assange. Exactly.
You just watched a Michael Brooks show video. Subscribe to get them all. Why wouldn't you? Don't be foolish. Click subscribe below and become a patron as well. Patreon.com/TMBS. Thanks, everybody.